Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm CJ. This is Bella, my rescue dog from Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue. I'm the author of Rescue Matters, which really is the story of how Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue came about. I like to say how we sort of became an accidental garage rescue. I'll be reading the book every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Indefinitely, and I want to answer your questions. I've got my great friend Brenda here to sort of scroll through the comments and write down some questions for me and pass them over. I want to chat with you about kind of what happened behind the scenes of the book. So ask away. I will answer completely honestly, and grab a glass of wine. I hope you enjoyed the book. There's a link to the book in the comment section. My hat, my shirt. I get the Bella alumni. I get a lot of questions about where did you get that gear? It's so awesome. And so that link is in there tonight. But if you haven't read chapter 1 or the intro, you can scroll back and catch up. But otherwise, I've got chapter 2 tonight. And chapter 2 is Rescue Matters, A Rescue is Born. Keith's efforts to clean up the stray animal problem were immediately recognized, and an entire county of people began looking to him for help. Within a year of moving to Rolette County, North Dakota, Keith turned his entire life and home into a makeshift animal shelter. So when I wrote that, Keith turned his entire life and home into a makeshift animal shelter. It's the exact same shelter that it is today. It's been updated, policies have been made, epoxy has been laid down. So many things have changed, but there's so many things that are still exactly the same as they were, you know, when he first turned that garage into an animal rescue. And, you know, later in the book, I sort of joke that the first time I went there was sort of all these man things that men put in their garage, and they were all piled up into one corner. And you could sort of see where his life went, was like all into that corner in this huge pile of like dude things. And then the rest of the entire garage, you know, had become an animal rescue. And if you watch the videos, you can sort of still see that that's the vibe still today. But we're making progress. We have land. Huge celebration. We have land. Whether he intended to or not, and even if he didn't want it, it was done. A rescue was born. Gosh, that's just completely the truth. The amount of phone calls and private messages he received from people asking for help was overwhelming. People wanted to see change and were willing to participate in solving the problem when help became available. Requests for support covered a gamut of issues that in any other city would be doled out among several entities like volunteer organizations, low-cost or free vet services, and municipal divisions. Here, it was just Keith. At the time, and still now, that's true. The nearest vet is 90 miles away in Rugby. There are 1, maybe 2 free or low-cost spay and neuter clinics that come through that area every year. When people sort of not from here and there, you know, sort of criticize that you know, what's wrong? Why can't people take care of these animals? There's no resources. There's no services to take care of them. There's no, can I drop them off at the pound? There's a 90-minute trip to the vet that does not offer low-cost services for people in the area. When Keith started taking in dogs, he became the guy, the place, the thing that sort of did it all. And in a lot of ways, that is still, you know, what is happening today. Here, there was just Keith. Messages came in. My dog had a litter of puppies, and we can't keep them. We already have 6. Can you help? There's a dog in our backyard with a broken leg. When can you be here? My aunt died, and we can't take her dogs. Can you come and take them? I don't want to call the dog catcher. There's a dog outside our school that looks really skinny. We don't know what to do with him. Can you pick him up quick? At any one time, hundreds of stray and unwanted dogs roamed in a county that occupies roughly 1% of the state. A county that has no affordable or accessible resources to solve the problem. Until Keith, the only solution was the dog catcher. And if he was your fate was sealed. For the families that wanted to help the stray animals in the area but didn't see fit to call the dog catcher, their only option was to take the animals in themselves or find them a new home. And that's what many families here have done for decades. Super duper important. When there's no resources for help, when there's nowhere to take the stray dogs in the area, what do? You take them in. I mean, how many of you ladies and or gentlemen or husbands out there have ended up with dogs in your home? Multiple animals that you take in because there's nowhere to take them. In rural areas, that's what happens. And, you know, we have so many friends that if you say, where did you get that dog? There's no, I got it at the breeder, or there was a pet store, or, you know, I bought it from somewhere. These aren't bought dogs. These are the dogs that just happen upon your house or your area, and you end up with lots and lots of them. And that is what the wonderful people of the area have been doing for a really long time. And those are the people that really need to be known as the independent rescuers. They're the ones that aren't affiliated with an organization. They're volunteers on their own in their own home. Those are the people on the front lines. They are the independent rescuers, the families on the front lines operating in the shadows out of their homes and garages, taking in 1 or 100 animals. These folks ask for no credit, they get no glory, but they save lives every day, year after year, decade after decade. The independent rescuers are the good stewards within struggling communities who play a role in shaping local attitudes towards strays, encouraging responsible pet ownership, and advocating for the humane treatment of animals. They are the individuals who don't look away when they see a dog eating garbage out of a dumpster. They find a way to help her. I live in Fargo, North Dakota, about 4 hours from Keith. Now, 4 hours doesn't seem like a lot, but 4-hour drive there, a 4-hour drive back, a stop to do something, it ends up being a long ways away. And there's people from here that do transports, that transport animals every single week and make that trip. And in the wintertime, it is not nice. And it's not pretty. And it's really difficult driving conditions. And I don't do it very often. There are so many people behind the scenes that make that trip up there to help on a regular basis. I live in Fargo, North Dakota, about 4 hours from Keith. If there are stray animals here in Fargo, there is not only help, but choices. Multiple choices with the sole purpose of helping humans and animals in need. I can call animal control, I can call the Humane Society, or one of the many smaller local animal organizations, animal rescue organizations. It wasn't until I began to help in animal rescue that I realized how important and necessary these often volunteer-based organizations are. They save lives, alleviate suffering, and reunite humans with their lost companions. I always knew that I wanted to work or volunteer in animal rescue in a way other than advocating for farm animals. I haven't eaten animals in 18 years. I've advocated strongly for the humane treatment of animals in factory farms. And when I really got involved with dog rescue, because I live in Fargo, there's options. I just didn't realize that in so many places around the country, and I've been in a lot of places around the country now, in areas of poverty, that there's just no options. So the private organizations, the volunteers that get no money, they get no glory, they ask for no help, they want no recognition, they don't get paid, they use their homes, their cars, their hearts, their garages. Those are the people out there alleviating suffering that's real in these areas that people like me in Fargo don't see or didn't see. It wasn't until I began to help in animal rescue that I realized the good fortune and privilege animals born into my 58104 zip code have. And for that, I'm eternally grateful and will never forget that with great privilege comes a greater responsibility. A little bit later in the book, I'm going to talk about the day that I met Keith, how I met Keith, and how and why I got involved. This is a little bit of a prelude to that, is that once I knew that there was a problem, you know, I had to go to bed that night and sort of decide, am I going to turn away and like close my eyes and forget what I just saw, or am I going to help? Things are different north of where I live. Not all zip codes in North Dakota, or in any state for that matter, have good systems for animal control as a humane society or a society for the prevention of cruelty to animals. But in North Dakota, one county, an unlikely hero, and a new resource had sprung. Word spread that the new deputy not only took in animals, but was successful at finding them homes. Keith's newly appointed status as the dog rescue guy expanded into tasks that an entire rescue organization takes on with a team of volunteers and adequate funding to support it in most other cities. Keith instantly became the CEO, the secretary, the staff, the cleaning crew of a growing operation. He was also thrust into the role of judge, jury, and executioner, having to make unthinkable decisions no human should have to make, the kind of decisions that cut deep and leave scars. It was a great thing that the majority of the community wanted to help. It was bad that what was being asked of him, the newly appointed rescue guy, would come with tremendous strains on his time, his checkbook, his sanity, and his relationships. Yet when you have compassion and heart mixed with grit, like Keith does, instead of quitting, you dig in. Keith worked as a full-time deputy. After all-day shifts, he rescued animals around the clock. His life plunged into a Groundhog Day cycle of eating, sleeping, and breathing rescue work. He slogged through day after day, answering calls, responding to messages, picking up dogs, cats, puppies, and kittens. He coordinated transport, or he drove them himself, hauling dozens of animals thousands of miles to no-kill shelters where they would eventually be adopted. His entire existence became consumed by all things rescue. When I was writing it, was a few years ago now. When I was writing it, it had already been, years past. And, as I read that specific paragraph, I think that there's a lot that has changed and there's a lot more help now and we're in a really different place, but God is still a lot the same. It's just a massive amount of work for Keith and now Scott on the ground and the things that they have to do every single day. He worked with other rescues to take the dogs in that he picked up, and he made endless road trips to the vet for supplies. He had to learn how to bottle feed orphan pups, find time to pick hundreds of ticks out of matted fur, and pull quills from scared, hungry dogs. He would somehow have to sleep while puppies howled, barked, and cried each night. And if you watch the videos, that's real. When you walk into the rescue, the accidental little garage rescue that could, it's a garage with extremely clean, tidy kennels and an area to, intake and rescue the dogs. And just beyond that is the door to the house. And in the door to the house, a fan blows heat into the garage to heat the dogs in the wintertime. And the heat comes from the chopped wood, where occasionally you chop off your thumb to heat the entire garage and the entire house as well. So this is from Keith's own writing, Keith Benning. We brought one pregnant dog after another to the vet, each one more emaciated than the last. The vet didn't even know how they were still alive. They came in with everything from mange to parvo, all of them starving. Some had broken backs, legs, and gunshot wounds. End. 90-mile trips to the closest vet were tiresome, emotionally draining, and often traumatizing. Not to mention bank-breaking. Within months of taking in stray animals, Keith had amassed thousands of dollars in debt from vet bills and associated costs of sheltering a dozen animals at any one time. Still, like a shipwrecked victim clinging to the lifeboat, he was determined not to let go and drown. Even under the most insurmountable circumstances, he fought, he found the strength to keep going and stay optimistic about making a difference. He had passed the point of no return. Keith had to figure out how to become a sustainable garage rescue without burning out. He started a Facebook page and started a GoFundMe campaign to ask for help with vet bills. Even though it was a long shot, he hoped that one day he could raise enough money to actually build a real shelter. Because it's happy hour, and this is a, I just want to rescue dogs and drink wine. So if you ladies like that, you can actually buy it on the website. The first step was to ask the community for help by recruiting volunteers from the area. There was already a network of independent rescuers out there doing the work. He would just need to find them so that they could put their heads together and their efforts together. On the lookout for independent rescuers, Keith met an ambitious college student who is known for taking in strays. Lacey, and I hope I don't butcher her name, Streisel, who I've met, I still hope I don't butcher your name, Lacey, I'm sorry, is a mom with a big heart and a gentle way about her. She'd grown up there and had been taking dogs into her home steadily for more than a year. She too was experiencing the same kind of emotional burnout, an overwhelming sense of burden that rescue work can bring. Keith, his wife, and Lacey teamed up and founded Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue. The founders of Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue were Keith, his wife, and Lacey. It was 3 people right there from the beginning. And one of those individuals is still with the organization, Keith. And since then, it has changed. But those 3 were the original founders. They were no longer just random people taking in dogs. They were an organization, a legitimate nonprofit with a vision to save lives and alleviate suffering. They had a name, a mission, and Keith was leading the charge as the most public figure among them, working to gain trust with the community. During my many conversations with Keith about those early days when Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue was founded, he kept going back to how pivotal his wife and Lacey were in the beginning, how he couldn't have done it without their help. I asked Lacey, who has since stepped away from the rescue to pursue a career in nursing and raise her family, to tell me about those early days when the rescue was just formed. Here's what Lacey said. I did help them occasionally, she said. It was only when we had surrender events or picking up a dog to bring to his house when I was free from school. Keith has put so much into this rescue, which is why I feel that Keith and his wife should get the full credit. She went on to say that Keith deserves to be appreciated for his hard work and big heart. When you ask Keith, he says the same about her, and he says the same about his now ex-wife. Everyone gives credit to someone else. I've never in my life met more humble people who are still humble today. Within Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue today, no one person wants, asks, or needs credit for the volunteer work that they do. In fact, if you ask anyone involved still today, Each person gives credit to the next person or to the whole team. I believe that this is one of the reasons Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue has been so successful in its efforts. The core volunteers function as a cohesive team. There is no one rogue cowboy. There is no authoritarian. There's no string puller, not even Keith. He's a humble, hardworking, never give up kind of guy who wants no credit. This book, because it highlights his many extraordinary merits and fearless skills, has made him squirm more than once. As you can imagine, when I said, hey, what if, just what if? What if I just wrote a book about everything that's happened, about everything that has happened, everything that we're doing, and what we want to do? Like, what if? I don't think he was very keen on that right away. I know that he was not. He's super humble. Getting him to do a video in the beginning was hard, let alone alive. And still, I know to this day that every day it's hard for him. He doesn't want to be, in the spotlight. But, we've all encouraged him. We just need to show people what's happening to really make a difference here and everywhere. Keith deserves more credit than he probably has the capacity to accept, which is why I was shocked when I learned that not everyone trusted his intentions. And even more stunned when I found out that his efforts were met with suspicion, gossip, envy, and even sabotage. Just months after its conception, the fledgling rescue was nearly torn apart by local politics, rumors, lies, sabotaged by naysayers. Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue and Keith were swept under the rug by state and tribal officials. But the spirit of one man wasn't so easily broken. Something bigger, more powerful than all the obstacles that lay ahead had been set in motion. A revolution had begun, one that would prove unstoppable. I was just going to tell you that I got through a chapter and I didn't cry this time. But, those last few sentences here, they've really hit home, of course, in my heart. Because, well, they're just so freaking true. I don't know how it happened. Like it started with him, it started with them, it evolved. And literally, just out of happenstance, we sort of all fell together. And the right people fell together at the right times. And here we are. So that's the end of chapter 2. I've got a couple of questions that I would like to answer. Do you sell the hat that you're wearing? Yes, we do. And if I had my glasses, I would show you that it's the only hat that I have in my hat collection that I can also wear my sunglasses with. It's a great hat. You can find it on Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue on our website, the shirt and the little bandana that my sleeping dog is wearing over there as well. All the merchandise gets shipped out of one volunteer who doesn't get paid out of her home. So if she gets a little behind, which she typically doesn't, but just cut us some slack, a little patience. 99%, we are a volunteer organization. Is the rescue the same name as the building as the start? Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue.
Is it in the same building?
Is it?
As it was at the start.
Oh, is it in the same building as it was at the start? It's not. Keith and his now ex-wife lived in a tiny house. I was never there. He has described it to me that was much smaller than where he lives now. I want to say that it was a one bedroom. And when they started taking in animals, they moved, I don't know how long after, but they moved to where he is now. And where he is now is still a small, humble house in the rural area, which is kept top secret, Area 51 privacy type of thing, for a good reason. With a pole barn. I'm not versed in what a pole barn is, but they call it a pole barn. I don't know. There's just sort of this attached garage that leads into the house, and that is our garage rescue. So I hate reading, but I want to listen. Any Audible options? This is the only Audible option right now. I sort of jokingly wrote a post earlier today that I set up a home audio studio. I recorded half of Rescue Matters for Audible, had it all digitally mastered, was going to make it happen. And then my studio collapsed, and my dogs took all the foam and ran through the house with it and ripped it to shreds, and they had a grand old time, and I was super traumatized. And so I haven't recorded any more books, but I will. How much of the purchase price of the book goes to the rescue? What a great question. 50%. And I stuck with that from the start. I toyed with it thinking that, you know, all the other books out there say a portion of the profits. And then when I buy a book, I'm like, well, what portion of the profits? Is it like 2%? Like, who cares? You giving 50 cents to the rescue and then taking the rest? No. I wanted people to know that I was giving half of everything back to the rescue. Keith and I have argued about this. He said portion of the profits. And I was like, yeah, but I can prove everything on paper in my bank accounts and in all my bookkeeping that I give half of everything or more back to the rescue. And so that's my promise, and I'm sticking to it. What can we in the UK do? Wow, God, I love you guys over there in the UK. You're like all over in the comments and super kind. I don't know how we got there, but you know, I don't know. I don't know. Welcome me when I come over to visit. Maybe we come over to visit. Spread the word, right? So I'm working on a second rescue book, and honestly, the story of Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue, it's been told up to where it stopped, of course. And then where it stopped was we wanted to build a shelter. And we still want to build a shelter, and we're still working on it. So there's still a story to tell. But let's zoom out a little bit. That there's a lot of animals, let's talk about dogs in particular, around the United States, around the world, that need to be rescued. And there's some good models, and there's some models that aren't working. You know, I know not everyone likes to hear this, but it's a don't breed or buy while shelter animals die. And while we at Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue take in 60 to 100 dogs a month, pumping more dogs into the population here or around the world is not responsible. 1.5 million dogs get euthanized in the United States, you know, every single year. So rescue and adoption, rescue, adopt, repeat, rescue, adopt, repeat, spay, neuter, repeat, spay, neuter, repeat. That's what really needs to be done sort of everywhere. Keith and Scott are not brothers. When I have went and stayed at the rescue, they act more like a married couple that bickers more than my husband and I bicker. So that's what I know about that. What does your hat mean? It's backwards. Yes, I know it's backwards. It's TMAR, Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue. Hello, Brazil. Is it wonderful and beautiful and lovely down there? Thank you so much for following us. How did they get a hold of Keith and his wife and in the beginning? Is that right? How did they get a hold? I'm going to assume that means how did they get a hold? Like, I got a dog. I need some help. It was all through Facebook. And we get that question today. Hey, can I call you? You know, what's the phone number? There's no phone number. There's no phone number because there's no actual shelter. It's Keith's garage. And we do everything through Facebook. And as backwards and not business savvy as that might seem, it's enough for what we're doing right now. We have, you know, more than enough to keep up with. And hopefully when we have a shelter built, maybe there's a landline and things, of course, will change. But for now, we just do it based on Facebook messages, which seems so odd, but clearly, you know, we're getting through. What kind of wine do you drink? I have company over tonight upstairs, and I said anything's between $15 and $25 on sale. there you go. Anything's between $15 and $25 on sale. I'm just really not picky. I'm not a wine snob. Were you an author before? I was an author before and still am. My author journey is really interesting. I resigned from my career job to write books. And I had some unexpected success with a really unexpected book. My education actually is in nutrition and disease prevention. I was trying to write a weight loss book, which ultimately became WTF Am I Supposed to Eat? It was a best-selling book, on Amazon in its first day out. I had one before that as well. And I was working on multiple other books when I started writing Rescue Matters, because when I saw that there was a problem that was really close to me, when I met Keith, when I chatted with him, I didn't know how to help. I had no idea what I was going to do to help. I had no idea what I could do. But ultimately, I pressed pause on all of those other projects to write a book that ultimately could get the word out. So it's not about money for me. It's really, really, really not about money. I was telling my family from out of town today that anytime someone messages me, they want a digital copy of the book, I'll happily send it out. Want a paperback? I'll do what I can. It's really about getting the bigger message out. It's not about bringing in money. It's about getting the bigger message out. When you go to rural communities or areas in need and see people and animals suffering, if you can do something about it, want to do something about it. And Rescue Matters was me trying to do something about it. And I feel good about that. And will give everything back that I possibly can, including my time and hopefully another book. Well, I am working on another book. Can I volunteer for a week at the shelter? Yep. As soon as that shelter gets built, you can volunteer for all the weeks that you want. Until then, we don't have a shelter. We have Keith's garage. And I suppose you could camp out on the lawn with, some of the outside dogs. That probably wouldn't be very comfortable. It's just really not a feasible situation right now to volunteer on the ground, which sucks. Like, we would love that. It's just not a good situation to go there and volunteer right now. It's one man's garage, but soon enough. I was going to mention that I do need, a lot of us are volunteers behind the scenes, and I'm on tonight. Amanda's on later. Amanda will be on at 9:30. I think she's going to be with Annie, that little mangy dog who's just flippin' cute and feisty and spicy, and she's just getting a lot better. And we sort of said, hey, it's girls' night, everybody, but Amanda and I are two of dozens of women that volunteer behind the scenes. Dozens of women who put in a lot more hours than myself, for sure, by far. And so there's so many women behind the scenes of Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue making it all go around, that their names don't get mentioned. You may or may not ever know, who they are. If I start saying names right now, I'm going to forget because the list is that long. So for the girls of Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue that are watching now and listening into the comments, just a huge shout out to all of you, especially to Erin right now. Thank you so much for everything that you do behind the scenes that no one ever sees or recognizes. And I'll try to do my best to represent us when possible. How did you meet Keith? I got that coming up. That is chapter 6. So I'm going to talk all about that. The day that Brenda picked me up at basically the butt crack of dawn and took me to this place I didn't even know existed. And there was this dude up there who was a deputy rescuing dogs. And I was like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. Like, what's going on here? 4 hours from my house that I had no idea about. And there's this guy who totally needs some resources and is helping to alleviate so much suffering. What can I do? And so I wrote all about that. That's in there. I'm sorry, going to save that. I'll save that. Does Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue still have a GoFundMe? GoFundMe for us is sort of like MySpace. Remember MySpace? When it was like it was MySpace, and now it's like Facebook. I remember like my brother had a MySpace, and I was like, no, MySpace is like old. I think so. I'm sorry, MySpace. So we don't have a GoFundMe anymore. I can't remember what the deal was, but it just sort of was not the right thing to do. Certainly help Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue out. You guys are awesome about fulfilling our Amazon wish list. You can certainly, donate some money, and we will put it to good use. I swear to God, we will put it to good use. Check out the merchandise, check out the book, pass it along, give it to your library. Is Annie getting a bath tonight? I believe Annie is getting a bath tonight. So I'm going to sign off. I won't take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I'm going to be back every other Wednesday night at 7 until I'm finished reading the book. And love you all. Thank you so much for supporting us from around the world and locally. And if I didn't get to your question, I will look at it through the comments and see if I can't comment later. But you guys are the reason that we're still here, and you're the ones that support us every single day so that we can keep rescuing dogs and cats and kittens and puppies and keep trying to make a difference, and we promise that we will. Thanks, everybody. Good night.